Today's about readiness. For today's sessions, I did not prepare anything. I was thinking, what is going to be my next topic? How can I help people who want to live in purpose? They want to have their career aligned to their passion, what their calling is. But then I notice sometimes we do know what our purpose is, we do know what our calling is. Of course, there are ways to help people who are not clear about that purpose and that calling yet, or they don't dare. But sometimes it is about wanting to be perfectly ready and feeling like we have all under our control, and then we will launch ourselves towards that action. And sometimes we don't need to take big actions. So that was one of the points that I wanted to make today, that being ready doesn't necessarily mean you have a clear path, you know what actions you need to take, and then you're just going to be all ready all the way to the final execution of it. Sometimes it is about taking a small step, seeing how it goes, and maybe reflecting on that step and seeing, do I need to change? Do I need to maybe readjust anything towards that goal that we have? Let's take this channel, for example. I've been thinking about it for a long time, and maybe I've been doing it without even knowing I'm doing it, because I do love speaking. I do love sharing information. Throughout my growth, I was always a student ambassador. I was the one speaking up, having events, activities. I was volunteering for professional organizations for a decade. I've been in different roles there. So it's really what we love to do that pushes us to do it even for free. So when they tell you, if you are unclear about your purpose, maybe notice what have you been doing that you would just wake up and do it because you really love to do that, regardless if you're paid or not. Then that is a way to know what your purpose is and what your calling, what your natural skills are. And that would help somebody who is maybe unclear about what their purpose is. But when you know what it is, and then you're still not taking action, it can be that you are either not daring, you are not trusting yourself, so you are not ready for it because you are not having this self esteem where it needs to be, or it might be you're a perfectionist, so you might want to feel like you're ready for it, and there is always a better way to prepare yourself and do things. So you might hesitate, or you might just wait and prolong that wait too much. And I feel like that's something that we need to stop doing. If I think about the different methodologies that I've been applying as I was working in different transformation projects of my career, continuous improvement, Lean Six Sigma, the Japanese methods of working, they do take one step at a time, and there is this continuous process about it. So it doesn't just end with one project. You continuously learn, you have the lessons learned, you share that information, you maybe do some benchmarking, you escalate, and then here it comes. From that learning, there are new projects that you can continue to work on. And the same thing happens with the methodology about project management. Nowadays, project management has changed. When it comes to certifications, they have been more agile. It is an incremental way of building a project, like you're building not right away a car. You start from a bicycle, and from there you keep developing it. Like in this case, I'm launching this video. I don't know who will help, but hopefully somebody will help. And if it doesn't, then it's still there. It will be interesting to see it for myself after some time and see how I have evolved, how I have changed the way of doing things, how my mindset was. And if it helps somebody, that's great. That's the purpose. I'm not saying that you should just go out there, launch yourself, and throw yourself out there in the midst of the unknown. That would be kind of foolish. But if you are seeing that the only thing keeping you from going one step forward and trying something that you feel you are aligned to, it's really your self hesitation, this sense of feeling I'm not ready, fully ready for it, then in that case you might just need to take an action. Take the smallest action that brings you one step closer, see what happens. There are different ways that we learn, and sometimes we learn by doing. And of course, there are some parts that you do need to spend your time. You do need to have some resources, like the technical aspect, for example, for a YouTube video. There are multiple ways to do it. But if I then stopped and prevent myself from doing this until I'm fully ready, knowing myself that I like learning everything, I would be like learning all the tools that are out there, making it fancy. I'm very artsy, so I would like to mix the arts and then the noises and the storytelling. That would be very nice, for sure. But then I have to remember, and I advise you also to go to back to your why. Why are you doing it? In my case, my why is you. It's about helping somebody out there that could be in a similar situation, or they could be aware what their calling is, but they don't feel fully ready. So in this case, for me, then it kind of reminds me that if my why is this one, then I don't need all that fancy extra technical aspect of it. I will just need to share the message. And I've been doing a lot of research about YouTube in general and social media, digital products. They keep telling you, like, sell a product, you always need to have a product ready. You will be kind of triggered to buy it. And I do love teaching. I just finished my PhD. I just love research. I love teaching. I love sharing information. But then my calling has always been about having my own school, which is free for everybody. Why would it be that somebody who has more money to buy products would be having the opportunity to get these resources, and somebody else who doesn't, they just would be left behind? Recently, I saw instruction about how to use the digital products. And one of the reasons behind why you would have to sell a very high, costly course is because people take it more seriously because they have invested the money. Now, being myself coming from a country where the resources were not so available, and for my entire life I've been chasing education. I've been relocating for 7 cities, 5 countries, and I think more than 30 houses, just aiming to learn more and see how I can align myself and my life with my calling. So I was going and pursuing what was there, but if I wasn't supported through scholarships or different ways of volunteering that opened my doors to then be able to have these resources, then I would have been left behind. Then doesn't mean that I didn't take it seriously. This is why, for me, when I was thinking, and should I post another video, or should I first build a course and then sell it and have this high price, that is kind of taking me a bit away of the purpose. Even though I don't know what's going to happen in the future, maybe I'll have to restructure my time and my energy and my resources. And if I focus on just doing YouTube, maybe I'll have to sell it somehow. You have to have an income. But for now, my purpose again is about sharing information and sharing my journey. It doesn't mean that my journey is your journey. So it doesn't mean that what I say, it's the standalone truth and then you have to follow it and it's going to work for you. This is my journey. And this is also a very personal growth journey. So for me, as long as I'm sharing what I'm going through and what I've learned and what worked for me, challenges, but also the lessons learned out of those, if these help somebody out there, then I should just go ahead and share the information. Now, is there a better way to do things? Of course there is, but there is also some other resources that you have to think about it. You have to consider how much time, how much learning curve you need to have there, how much financial opportunity, the energy, well-being, depending where you are in your life. You need to ponder these resources and understand, are you ready, or do you need to wait more time and then have these other extra resources kind of balance out? So I would say it's a very personal decision, depending on the personal circumstances as well. But in the situation where for you it's not just the hesitation out of I don't feel confident enough, hesitation about to be perfect. Maybe as a person who works in continuous improvement, I'm all about excellence. So it's kind of contradictory, because when you work in continuous improvement, you should be okay with not being perfect, but also the fact that you want to aim continuous improvement and the excellence aspect of it, you are always driven to make it better, make it better. But then, as I said, you need to know also when to stop this if it's turning against you. If I have to do comparison with one of the continuous improvement tools we use in Lean Six Sigma, which is called the 5 whys. For example, maybe ask yourself, why am I not ready? Why am I preventing myself from taking that step? Again, this is about the situation where you already know, at least have a vague idea what direction you want to go, you feel called to go towards. But then why am I not taking that action? In the 5 whys tool we have in Lean Six Sigma for root cause analysis, that will give you a why. I'm not doing it because I don't feel ready. But why don't you feel ready? Could be I don't feel ready because I don't feel confident. I don't think I'm good enough. I don't think I have anything to share that somebody would make some use of it. Or I don't feel ready because I know there is a better way, a better technical way to do it. So maybe I need to learn some more. And depending on what this second why is, then you ask another why. So you can continue asking why and why until you find the root cause. But there is one particular tip that I would recommend in using the 5 whys. But it doesn't mean that you need to ask only 5 whys. You should not stop with the fifth why. It can stop before the fifth or even after the fifth. It really depends on the resources that you have also. You can keep asking why, and then the financial aspect of it. If you are asking way too many whys, then that is a waste of time. So you could have like your competition start something that you might be willing to initiate and be the first in the market, for example. So you do need to ponder how much you're gonna hesitate and how much you can keep searching and improving and trying to be ready. If I think about an example, it always comes to mind the PhD. I always wanted to have continuation on education. I was working in the industry for many years, but I knew I'm all about teaching. I didn't know if I wanted to be in academia, but I think the way I was acting was already being like somebody who is in academia. For example, while I was working at my company, when I was back in Boston living there, I started questioning why things were a certain way. We did not have a quality department, and then I ended up being exposed to the program of Lean Six Sigma. And in that case, I just trained myself. No one was asking for it, and then I got certified. But because I did not want to do that by myself, because I felt like you do quality when other people are also ready for it, and that aspect of readiness, it's not just a one person deal. You have to have the people around you also be prepared and aware and be ready for also creating this moment of change and continuous improvement culture. So there is a cultural shift that needed to happen there. So automatically, in a very natural way, I started volunteering myself into creating some courses within the department that I had. And that was funny when I think about it nowadays, because I had a very supportive manager at that time. And he was saying, whatever, you like classes, you just build a class, whatever. So he was very appreciative in that way, and also letting me free to follow my calling, even though my calling maybe was not just that job, but because I wanted to help people learn more. And so we all together, we create this culture of excellence, and we're all proactive, and we're all helping each other to be ready to do that. That allowed me to somehow indirectly follow my calling. So I would say, for you as well, try to see and think, where have you seen yourself volunteering your time? What will you do for free? And if that is clear, then please do not wait. Start something, try it, see what other people maybe have tried. Deep down, we all know what the first step would be, and it doesn't have to be, as I said, this huge step. You can start small. But for me, even though I knew like it's not just that job that I wanted to do, I knew I wanted to have a bigger impact. I wanted to have a bigger impact even aside of the organization. And when I took a personality test in the organization that I was working for, it came out that I'm a teacher. That was my personality. So I wanted to have a bigger impact on the wide, big community. So if you put me like in a very small company, which is having a very rigid mindset, and they're not open and willing, especially at the executive level, because if you don't have that, then you're going to have an organization which can grow. But if they don't have that mindset of growth and learning continuously, for me, that would be very away from my calling. Maybe that's why YouTube or professional organizations where I volunteer, because I feel like I give a bigger impact that way, and I have the opportunity to do it in a bigger, wider community support. The more I became clear about the purpose, the more the jobs I was doing felt like this is not where I want to be. Yes, I'm happy to help some people in my organization, but then I can tell that I wanted a bigger impact. And I started looking into PhDs. I did not have the money for it. And how can I be ready? I was fully ready mindset wise, but how can I be ready financially? And this is a question that maybe many of you can ask yourself, and it might be saying like, oh, it was easy for you because you had the opportunity. And no, when I came back from US, it was after 20 years being away from Albania, which is a country that It was in a very long post-communism transition time, and it still is. There was no job opportunities for me in my field of continuous improvement, and it was very tough. And in the back of my head, there was this PhD, and I wanted a PhD from US because that's where I did my master's. I was very US oriented when it comes to education, and I was very clear, but the opportunities and the resources was not there. So I said, okay, then I will look for a job that pays at least more than the norm, because I wanted to start saving and start a PhD. I looked into multiple programs. That was a step forward, even though I still had no idea how I'm going to do it. I did not want to go back to US with a student visa. I felt like after 15 years of work experience, I don't deserve that. Why would I return and be kind of barely supporting myself to go back on a student visa? And this is not something that anybody else should do. I mean, I feel with respect for the people who just go straight to PhD after the master's, maybe, and maybe I should have done that at that time. But back in the days, I was working as a worker visa, so I did not want to ruin that, so I did not go to the PhD. But anyhow, I still was trying to find this way that would work for me. Regardless, it was very, very different from what the traditional academia was looking for. Many people were telling me, even some former professors, that hey, if you are looking for to do a PhD, just do it straight from the master's or very early in your career, because they want people in their 20s. And here I am. I was about 30 at that time, and I was still thinking about it, and I kept thinking and not feeling ready to just quit my job and go back to academia. Now I was 40. Time flies, so you have to see how long you're gonna ponder things out, and then maybe just there, start something and see how it goes. For me, this was an exploration step. So for me, taking a step was exploring the steps, exploring the opportunities. I started looking into different scholarships in the professional organizations that I was actually volunteering for many years, and I was surprised. I think the universe finds a way as well, but that's just me. Maybe I really believe in universe connecting the dots. And I found two scholarships, one at the Project Management Institute and one at the American Society for Quality, where I was volunteering my time. So when I started the PhD, I found a job that would support me. The job changed. It was not a very easy moment to do the PhD, because I wanted a PhD that allows me to actually do the research that I wanted to do, which was about continuous improvement and leadership, and how leaders help creating a culture of continuous improvement. And the traditional PhDs that I was looking for, even though I got selected in two that were back in Italy, where I also lived for a decade, but they're very traditional. I have basically a first year that will repeat the finance courses I have taken. That was not for me. And if I had to think just a very traditional way, some people would just go and say, okay, I'll do it, And for me, it was like, nope, I've gone through an MBA before, and I don't think I need extra finance courses, even though I was excelling them, but it was not where my heart would go. So I still dared to be very focused on what I was feeling inside. And I felt that traditional way, and it's not my way, it's not aligned to my calling, and it's making me waste time. Even though, again, I didn't know how I will find the money to actually go through a PhD that was self-funded, which I had found then in US. But as I said, time sometimes comes at the right moment, and it just aligns the dots that you need to take a step forward. I found this PhD that was very much aligned to what I wanted to do. It was in organizational leadership, and the research and all the courses that I took collected all together and aligned it to the dissertation that I wanted to do. But if I go back and think, was I ready? Not really. I was not ready when I started. I had used my credit card, which was like only paying for 2 or 3 courses. And don't take my advice, it's gonna be very challenging. But this is just an example to show you that sometimes things have a way to work out if you are very fully aligned to what your calling is. And if this is not clear, you still have calling for what is the next step. At least try that next step and see if it sparks you joy, And I saw myself, even during the courses, I was having to do some homework. They're very interpersonal. You have to go and dig deep down into who you are, how you develop, all the traumas you had in childhood, like how your personality was built, because you're studying leadership. So you have to really study yourself first before you go and teach other people how to lead other people. So it was a very, very personal journey. I felt like this PhD was not a PhD to help me become a professor. It was like a PhD where it was a self growth journey. And as I was doing these homeworks, I was building like storytelling. I had to do a project where I had actually, this video is posted on my YouTube channel. And this is about the journey that I went through my whole life, and how the retrospective and the reflections were there about my growth. And I think doing these videos, I really loved it. I was staying till 2, 3 a.m. to just build them, and I was rewatching and rewatching. So I felt like storytelling in a way has been there for me. Even if I think of back in the days when I was a child, I was the one like reciting in different concerts in our school. I was always I participated in a TV radio show. So I think these dots, if you go back to your childhood, where you are free to just dream because no one is telling you, oh, you're not able to do that because you're a kid. They think of you like, oh, she's just a kid, let her dream, you know? I did have those moments of artsy. I like photography, I like video making, and I like talking, and I like sharing information. And I would be the person always to break the ice if it was like a group thing, because I wanted to help other people, not because I was just like, hey, let me just show off here. And I think if you connect to your why, everything else becomes more doable, more easy, and you are more ready. This does not mean that I don't feel that I'm not ready. As I said, this video has been waiting for so long, then somebody would be like, either do it or just leave it. But then I started reflecting, why am I waiting? I ordered a microphone from Germany. So I said, I'm going to wait until this perfect microphone is going to be there for me. In the meantime, I'll do some more learning about how to start it, how to make it fancy. There is so much overthinking happening in my head, and I've seen this happening to other people as well. I had the chance to mentor a few girls from about 2 years ago. I usually do this volunteering of mentoring for my birthday. And I saw the same thing. I'm not ready. Yeah, maybe I can do this, but who am I to have this knowledge? I don't have this title. I never had the specific title for this job. And to me, it was like, no, first let's go back to who you are. What is that is really calling you to do? What is something that you love doing, something that you are good at? And good at can be also something that you can improve, but what is it also something that people need? When you have these three things aligned, then you should not just stop yourself from starting. It doesn't have to be a traditional way, having a specific perfect job before so you can match the next job. Sometimes these skills that we have are very transferable. So if you have worked in a specific area, but then you had, I don't know, coordination skills, and then you are seeing that your calling is somewhere else, but it still has to do something about coordination, you can still use those skills. You cannot just like say, oh, but I didn't work in this job before, so I'm not going to apply. No, you have to apply. And I highly recommend also, depending how you learn, you can have a coach, a mentor, you can watch a YouTube video, maybe ask somebody else who had a similar journey. You can go on LinkedIn and see how other people shifted from a job to another. I know the shifts and change is not easy, and I will maybe have another session which is just about the fear of change itself. But you can see that other people have done it, and it's not always this stuck in the stone situation that has to be a very typical way. We are sometimes so focused on it has to be a certain way. I don't know if it's brought from traditional ways of being grown up. Well, I would say that a few decades ago, it was about if you start something in a specific area, then you're going to end up just working on that field. I remember myself when I moved to Italy from Albania for my studies. I studied finance, and then I started working in banks. I was bored to death, whatever. But still, it's an expectation that was happening at that time in Europe, that you study something, then you align specifically to that studies for your next job, and then you retire with that, either with that company or at least with that career, you don't shift. And that's how it was. And then there was the economic crisis in 2008, 2009. And that's when I moved to US and I was studying MBA finance. I was about to finish that. And I even thought about having a PhD in finance because I was good in math. Follow this traditional way of a career path and life path. Somehow I found myself that I was volunteering to my roommate's courses. She was studying organizational leadership back in the days. And she was from Alaska. She was wonderful lady. She was involved everywhere, a cheerleader of the school. I think she was a natural leader. She still is, and I love her and I say hi. But as I was seeing myself volunteering those courses, I remember one of her professors telling me, "What are you doing in finance?" And I was, what? This is what I studied. And I came and I did my bachelor in Italy finance. I was working in banks. And she's like, "Yeah, but are you happy there?" I'm like, "No." And she told me, "Why don't you come here?" My scholarship was linked to my MBA in finance. Then life shifted, and that will be another story for some other day. But I found myself in the Master's in Organizational Leadership. They transferred my scholarship in Organizational Leadership, and here I am studying a PhD in Organizational Leadership and done with it. I would say if I waited to be ready, no, I would have not done that. And sometimes life's just throws you where you feel like you are going backwards, where you feel like everything is not what you wanted, and maybe you feel like a loser sometimes. But somehow, all the falling that I had in my life brought me closer to my path. But if I just stood there to complain about it and to just feel bad about myself, why I'm not where I wanted to be, but maybe where I wanted to be was not fully aligned with my calling. Sometimes we need to stop thinking about what's around us, stop thinking about our own expectations and expectations that are coming from the external environment, and stop thinking about the self-limiting beliefs. Remove all the noise and just sit. I think when you ask, at least this is how it works for me, when I'm in silence and I ask an internal question, I know what my calling is. I know if it feels right. It's just like a very quick response right away. Once you have that response, then you might say like, "Am I ready?" Then you go crazy because you're like, "No, I'm not ready. I need to do this. And who am I?" And maybe the country is not the right one. Maybe the salary is not going to be the right one. But again, if your calling is clear and strong, it has a strong why, then it's going to be like, this is the time when I'm ready to take the next step. And if you do that, you will be at least one step closer. This is how I'm feeling today. I went to take a long, nice walk, and I love nature. And as I said, I love video making. So I'm like, let me go somewhere nice in the nature and let me go find the perfect spot so I can go and talk about something. And I did not want to prepare the topic because I knew it's going to be something that I don't want to prepare for, because that will be the non-traditional me, not preparing anything. And here I am right now. I didn't find the perfect spot. I was just enjoying it. So I felt like, let me just enjoy the sunshine and enjoy it, just be fully there. And then the idea will come. Like, forget about having this perfect idea. And then I took this long walk. Come, follow your heart. Enjoyed, loved it. I came back in my house and here I am in my room. And then I felt this calling to talk and I didn't have the topic ready. I said, okay, let's just go write an article, because I was supposed to write an article for our ASQ, which is the American Center for Quality, Human Development and Leadership Division. We have a quarterly newsletter. So I wanted to write an article there about my dissertation. And as soon as I said, there's still this urge that's in me, and what I'm going to do about it. I cannot just like sit in my sofa here and just talk randomly. Didn't put a makeup or anything. So I said, like, I'm just going to sit and talk. And some topic will come by itself. As soon as I'm about to turn on the camera, I still had the urge to talk, so I knew I'm going to talk regardless what topics come out. But as soon as I was about to turn it on, it just came. The topic was not being ready and not preventing ourselves from following our calling just because we don't feel ready. And now I feel like that urge, it's not there. Now it's calm. I feel calm inside. There is not anything else that I want to add. regardless, my voices in my head say, oh, but on this topic you could have said this and this and this. And when I will listen to it, I'm pretty sure my perfectionist me will be like, you should have talked about this as well. But now, if I listen within, what comes out from me says, and this is from here, it says, if there is some extra thing, there is always an extra video that you can make. And there is always another message that maybe will be at the perfect time for somebody out there. And maybe for today, this is what they needed to hear. And that's okay. I will leave you with this now, just because it feels that this is the time that it should stop. And I hope this gives you some thinking, some reflection. I really appreciate you for being here, and I really trust and believe that you can follow your calling anytime, anywhere, in any way.
All right. I'm going to start zooming you in. Oh, shit. I think I did it in the opposite direction. You come tell me what I did wrong, so I'll correct it.
Just zoom out.
It's okay. This is I'm learning. So I didn't stop it. Now see what I did.